Hello everyone! Thank you for visiting our channel. Have you ever experienced such life stories? Alyssa and David tied the knot 5 years ago. David had always dreamed of a big loving family. So when he met Alyssa and realized that she would be his perfect partner for the rest of his life, he wasted no time and proposed just 6 months into their relationship. Alyssa was a caring, kind, and gentle woman. She didn't enjoy noisy gatherings or loud parties. She said she had had enough of all that in her teenage years and had grown tired of it. David had a deep love for taking care of his loved ones. He expressed his care for his family in everything he did. He went above and beyond to ensure his wife felt good and lacked nothing. To provide for his beloved, David had to frequently go on business trips, sometimes for an entire month, and they would be apart for long periods. These extended trips had only recently become part of his life due to a promotion. He understood that once they had children, he wouldn't be able to be away for such a long time. Therefore, while they were unsuccessfully trying to conceive a child, he accepted these work conditions to bring in additional income for their household. Doctors were baffled, unable to find a reason why Alyssa couldn't get pregnant. All the tests came back normal. They prescribed additional vitamins and advised them to minimize stress. They hoped that things would work out naturally. David was deeply saddened. He felt ready to become a father. He had many nieces and nephews who he adored. Everyone around him constantly reminded him what an amazing father he would be and how children naturally gravitated towards him. After some time, David was sent on another month-long business trip. He worked tirelessly, and at times he was so exhausted that he couldn't always find the strength to call his wife. In the rare moments they spoke, she would always express how much she missed him and counted the days until his return. However, an unfortunate situation unfolded. The trip was extended for another month. When David broke the news to Alyssa, she was deeply upset, and he even sensed a hint of resentment. But there was nothing to be done. Work is work. When he finally returned, he noticed a change in his wife's gaze. It was an intangible shift, something that couldn't be named or defined. He simply felt that something had changed. However, he soon forgot about this peculiarity, as his wife fell in love with him all over again and wouldn't let him leave the bedroom for several days. It was as if they were experiencing a second honeymoon. David joked that maybe he should go on such long trips more often so his wife would miss him. And after his wife pretended to be offended and playfully tapped his chest with her fist, he burst into laughter. After 2 weeks of a life filled with love and passion, Alyssa announced that she was pregnant. The happiness of the husband knew no bounds. They had finally managed to conceive, and soon they would become blissful parents. On the day of the scheduled ultrasound, the husband tried his best to take time off work and accompany his wife, but he couldn't make it. Therefore, he learned all the details from his spouse. The baby was developing perfectly healthy. Time went by, and Alyssa was already in her 6th month of pregnancy. She continued to take frequent walks during the day, embracing the fresh air, and attended classes for expectant mothers. At one point, her phone started receiving strange calls in the evenings. Alyssa claimed they were from her new friends from the classes, but the calls didn't stop. One day, closer to nightfall, a man appeared beneath the windows of their apartment building. He was clearly intoxicated and filled with despair. He loudly shouted something incoherent about separation and reconciliation, and he repeatedly mentioned one name, Alyssa. During this time, Alyssa buried herself in her book, diligently ignoring the commotion outside. The husband glanced out of the window from the 3rd floor, closely observing the man. Poor soul, someone had clearly broken his heart. Teasingly, the husband asked if he might be an acquaintance of hers, understanding that most likely he had come to see one of the neighbors. There were a couple of not-so-prosperous-looking ladies living in the building. After this question, his wife blushed sharply and shook her head in denial. The day of delivery arrived, and the husband was in a state of disbelief. He thought it would happen another month later, but his wife informed him that the doctors predicted an earlier birth. The man was anxious, but also filled with a thrilling anticipation as he awaited the arrival of their firstborn. His wife was placed in a private room, and she gave birth late in the evening without any complications. The next day, David went to visit his wife and child, accompanied by his mother, the newly minted grandmother. Upon seeing his little son, the man rejoiced like a child himself. He hugged his wife and thanked her for their son. However, the grandmother stood at a slight distance, not sharing in her son's joy. It wasn't until they left the room that she spoke. "Son, don't be angry with me, but the baby doesn't resemble you at all. All the boys in our family resemble their fathers. Remember your own photographs." "I don't know, David. I don't sense any familial connection," she said and burst into tears. At first, the man was taken aback by such a reaction, but then he thought that maybe his mother was tired or overly upset due to the premature birth. The next day, David took a day off from work and went to visit his wife and son once again. Alyssa seemed nervous and restless, so they couldn't have a prolonged conversation. As the husband was descending to the ground floor, he suddenly came face to face with a man at the entrance of the maternity ward. He stared at the man's face for a long while as it seemed familiar to him. And then it hit him. It was the very same man who had been shouting outside the windows. The stranger stared intently at David and boldly declared, "This is my child and my Alyssa, and you're just an intruder." Unable to tolerate such audacity, the husband physically pushed the man out onto the street to avoid resolving such matters in front of everyone. Did you ever wonder why she got pregnant right after your business trip? And why she gave birth prematurely? Didn't you think about that? The man shouted. The stranger went on to reveal that he had an affair with Alyssa while her husband was away. The poor woman craved male affection so much that she decided to indulge a couple of times and forget about it. But things didn't turn out as she had hoped, and she became pregnant. However, it seemed that she still loved her husband and decided to present the child as theirs. In that moment, the husband felt as if his world had crumbled. Various emotions overwhelmed him. He had been so overjoyed that he and his wife had finally managed to conceive a child, but now everything was falling apart before his eyes. He had no choice but to undergo a DNA test. Deep down, the husband still hoped that it was all some unfortunate prank and that the child was indeed his. However, science proved otherwise. Alyssa had given birth to a child who wasn't fathered by her husband. David was simply crushed by this news. Alyssa screamed at the top of her lungs, claiming that it was some sort of mistake. However, the words of the other man and the DNA test confirmed otherwise. The husband couldn't bear such treacherous betrayal and filed for divorce. His name was absent from the child's birth certificate. The unfaithful wife was expelled from their home. David immersed himself in work, trying to drown out the pain inflicted upon him. Over time, he began to heal, with great support from his friends and family. But one thing he learned for certain was the old adage, trust, but verify. Such is a story from real life. Share your thoughts in the comments about this situation and the behavior of the spouses. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and be sure to like this video. It will greatly help promote the channel. Take care and have a wonderful day.